Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say, and please keep me out of your way. Amen. Please be seated. You know, in the clergy world, this Sunday is referred to as Low Sunday. It is historically, after Easter and Holy Week, one of the lowest attendance Sundays that we have all year long. And you guys have gone against that trend. I am so impressed with this big crowd today, especially when Mother Nature throws that snow at you. I'm delighted to have you all here, especially because of this gospel reading. Every year after Easter, we have a version of the Thomas story to share. And for me, it is such a meaningful gospel reading. The disciples so often are models for us. They stand out in ways that we are to emulate. And Thomas is another good example of that. But before I dive into that, I want to give you a little bit of the scene, if you will, what's going on. Jesus has risen. Mary Magdalene's had a nice little chat with him. And now it's the disciples' turn. And where are they? They are locked away in a room for fear of the Jews. You see, they have just watched their leader and their dear friend be crucified a few days before. Put away in a tomb, all hope is lost. And the same thing could be waiting for them outside those doors. So they're locked away in a room. And Jesus appears suddenly in this locked room. Imagine their astonishment. And Jesus is quick to show them the wounds in his hands and his side. Now, Jesus has risen. Jesus looks different. We know that. Mary Magdalene had a hard time recognizing him in the garden. Yet, he still has the marks on his body. Jesus has not left behind the crucifixion. The risen Jesus reminds us of his sacrifice for us by carrying on these marks on his body. So the disciples see them and they believe. They are astonished. But on this day, at this moment, one of the 11 is missing. Good old Thomas is out. And why is that? Why is Thomas missing? We don't know too much about all the disciples. We infer things based on their actions. Sometimes we know what they did for a living. We know that Thomas is a twin. He has a brother or a sister out there somewhere. But we know something else about him. Earlier in John, when Jesus is speaking of needing to go to Jerusalem, where he will ultimately meet his fate, all of the disciples try to talk him out of it. They remind him that they were nearly stoned to death the last time they were in Jerusalem. Do not go there, Lord, they say. But Jesus tells them, I must go. And Thomas gives this statement in chapter 11. Let us also go then, that we may die with him. From that, I infer that Thomas was a man of courage, braver than most, perhaps. And while the other disciples are locked in this room, hiding from the Jews, Thomas has gone out, no doubt, to get provisions for the group. He alone was brave enough to leave to get something. So he comes back, and what does he hear? We have seen Jesus. He is risen. Well, you can imagine Thomas's skeptical nature. Thus the term doubting Thomas comes into our vernacular from this moment. I will not believe this, no matter what you say, until I see the holes in his hands and I place my own hand in the wound in his side So the conversation stops. Another day passes. Jesus reappears again. And this time, Thomas is indeed there. And Jesus, of course, knows of the previous conversation. And he walks over to Thomas and says, "Would you like to put your finger in my wounds now? Would you like to put your hand in my side now?" And Thomas, doubting Thomas, gives one of the clearest affirmations of faith ever found in the Bible. He states, no doubt full of emotion, "My Lord and my God." That's the last we hear from Thomas. He is astonished as he says these things to Jesus. And Jesus seems as if he is chastising him a little bit when he says, "Do you only believe because you have seen?" Here's where the example of Thomas comes 2,000 years forward to smack us in the face. Doubt is not a bad thing. Doubt causes us to rethink our faith. Thomas and his story, his encounter with Jesus, causes us to rethink what it means to believe in Jesus. We can have doubt without living a doubting life. Thomas did not doubt his whole life at all. Doubt, folks, encourages us to move beyond where we're at any given moment. It sharpens our mind, and it can cause us to change it. Doubt, just like for Thomas's doubt, was never meant to be permanent. It didn't last for long with him. And when you experience doubt, and I know you do, I do all the time about so many things. But when you experience doubt, I want you to take encouragement from Thomas. He didn't stay in his doubt for long. He allowed Jesus to move him through it to a stronger belief than ever before. Let it be so for us. Amen.